Welcome to the Wedco podcast, your ultimate guide to the wedding world. Whether you're a bride, groom, or wedding vendor, this is the place to be. Join us as we dive into real stories, expert advice, and behind-the-scenes insights to help you plan the perfect day. So grab a seat and let's celebrate love, connection, and creativity together. Before we get into this episode, I'd love to ask you a super quick and easy favor. If you're enjoying the Wedco podcast, please hit that follow button on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. It might seem small, but it makes a huge difference in helping the podcast grow and means I can keep bringing on amazing vendors to share their insights with you. Thank you so much for your support. It truly means the world. Hello and welcome to the Wedco podcast. I'm Steve Toga, and today we got Jay back in the studio with us.
Round two.
After we finished up recording last week, Jay has been twisting my arm to kind of come on here and tell my story. So begrudgingly, I've come back on. And we're just going to unpack a little bit of the last, 14 years in the wedding industry for me, how things have changed, and how leaning on experts, has changed my whole outlook on honestly on life, not just work in the wedding industry, but life as a whole. So thanks for twisting my arm, mate.
Mate, the pleasure's all mine. But I think the reason I wanted to do this is because I think your story is so unique, but also so relatable to people as well. You were telling me you've been doing this for 14 years.
Yep.
Up until 2 years ago, you had no growth.
Yeah, for sure.
You were stuck doing how many weddings a year?
Probably it was always 30 to 35, kind of no matter what I thought I was doing, it was kind of always that 30 to 35. It was photo weddings for maybe the first 8 years was just photo. Mm-hmm. And then from that point, it kind of went to photo video, but it was always kind of stuck at that 30, years. Yeah, 30 every year.
Yeah. And you were telling me how 2 years ago, you were kind of like presented with this cross in the road.
Yeah.
This turning point where either you had to change how things were working. You got 5 kids.
Yeah.
You got a beautiful wife. Life is expensive. And the money that you were making, although very good in terms of the industry and what you'd have achieved so far. I love that you paint this picture of like, it's do or die. I've got to find a way to make this work.
Yeah.
Or I've got to get another job.
Yep.
Take us back to that moment and help us understand what was going through your mind and what was the result of that thought process.
Well, there's nothing like having another baby to to put you back up against the wall. As many people know, we earn a really good income, but we live in Byron Bay, so the cost of living is super expensive here. And we've made that decision. Our kids go to beautiful schools. We live close to the beach. And that's all things that we wouldn't take away. I would always said I would work harder so that we can stay in this area because we love where we live. I'm not afraid of doing hard work. But it definitely got to the point where we had 4 kids at the time. Margot was on her way and I was looking at my bookings, and usually I must have been looking maybe in October or November, and I was like, I've got 6 weddings booked for next year. And I was thinking, I'm like, cool, that's, maybe 40 grand that I've got coming in for next year. Whereas typically up until that point, I'd always have 25 weddings. So I'm like, cool, I've got money sitting there. I'm not stressed. I know I'm going to book another 10 or 15 throughout that year. And so it was just a really rude awakening. Things they weren't tight. We still go out and we have food and we have dinners and all that kind of stuff. But it was the first time where I was it was really a kind of tight in the chest, this is getting real, which was crazy because everything I had done, even though I hadn't done much in the past, I'd always had those 30 to 35 weddings. Mm-hmm. I'd done meta ads back when it was Facebook ads at the very start. And I remember putting in $10 or something and you get a couple of leads. And then all of a sudden, Instagram's not getting anything. You're not getting referrals from venues that you used to. And just it all started to dry up. And I think it was already the writing was on the wall with social media that by that stage it was pay to play, and I just hadn't realized that yet. And everyone's telling me you've just got to post really good content on social media and posting all the time and you'll get the bookings. And I just was I was probably getting 2 or 3 leads a month, and then I still if I booked one of those I'd be stoked. But it just it almost, I think a lot of people in the wedding industry will know when you're busy with work, your next season is quiet because you were so busy in the moment, you're not really focusing on the future. Yeah. And then you get to the future and it's quiet and then you're like, shit, I need to actually start working hard. And then your next season is busy again. Mm-hmm. But it's just not sustainable. It just feels like it's been 10 years of a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah.
Highs, lows.
Yep.
Working in the business versus on the business.
Yeah.
So you got to this point in your life where you're like, oh shit.
Yeah. Yeah. Big
Baby
time.
number 5, Margot, we love you. Thank you for the inspiration. And obviously there was that turning point. I'm really keen to lean in real quick because you approach this from a rather logical,
Yep.
kind of like analytical point of view, which I love. Run us through like the emotions, because no doubt there was this element of, I've got to find a way to make this work.
Yep.
How did you deal with that? Because I know for a lot of people, like growing or stepping into or expanding what they're doing, it's challenging.
Yeah, for sure.
There's emotions, there's preconceived ideas and beliefs around what's possible. Like, how did you navigate that point? Or was it simply that you got to a point where you had no choice?
Yeah, honestly, it was pretty close to no choice. It was like, okay, and honestly, it's like, okay, what other job can I do that gives me the freedom and the income that I get from weddings? And I was looking around, I'm like, there's nothing. Like, there really isn't. I'm not like skilled in, I'm not a builder, I'm not all these other things. And so it's like, I've built this career over the last 10 years and there isn't something that I can just go and replace that income with. And so it really was, is like, even Kashia, like we had 4 kids at the time. She's like, maybe I need to go back to work. And I'm like, well, that's not an option. You know, like I know how important it is for Kashia to be able to stay home with the kids and nurture them, because there's going to be a time in our lives when they're all at school and they don't need us as much and she's going to crush work again. But at the moment, we'd had those discussions where she's like, it is super important that I'm with the kids. And so it was just like a super emotional time where it's like, you just got to fucking step up.
Yeah.
I didn't know what that meant, but I was just like, I don't have a choice. This is it. Yeah. So, but yeah, it was pretty eye-opening to think you're cruising and then 1 minute you're like, oh, we're not fucking cruising. It's like, we're not. Yeah. It just got real tough real quick.
Yeah. I reckon there's a whole nother podcast we could do on raising 5 kids, roles and supporting and like how you do that, because how you guys do it, like, I don't know. I don't have kids yet.
Yep.
I look at you guys and I salute you because I'm like, 5 kids running 2 businesses now and full-time mom and like all the things that go on with having kids. I think it's incredible. I want to give a teaser, and if it's okay, I know you've told me that you've more than doubled the number of weddings you do per year on average now, consistently for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
You've tripled your income, but you've halved your working hours.
Yeah. Which that's probably the biggest bonus.
People listening to this, they'll be like, how the fuck is he doing that? That's not possible. How is he not doing the editing? Like all these things, which we'll dive into in a second, because I know your process around that is incredible. Take us through the turning point. So you knew that pay to play was the game forward. Obviously, there was kind of like this high risk in the sense it was unknown.
Yep.
How did you navigate that? What was the next steps? What was the turning point in terms of launching ads?
Yeah. So that was when I think I just listened to like one of the Hormozi books. It would have been like, you know, $100 million leads or offers, whatever it was. And he had talked about, instead of doing a course or something like that, he was like, okay, I always go to like an agency or someone who knows what they're doing. I'm going to get the end result and then I'm going to kind of back engineer from that. Or I'm going to get them to do that with me and along the way teach me what they're doing. And then it kind of, just get to that point where I know exactly what they're doing to get to that point. So I went and approached the Meta Ads agency, and same thing. I honestly didn't have confidence in them, didn't have confidence in myself, and like didn't have confidence in any like ads agency. Like I feel like all of them are just like, just throw us this money and we'll get you jobs. And like I feel like what they promise is never delivered, honestly. And I already knew that in the back of my head, but same thing. It was just like, I don't have a choice and I've just got to do something.
Was that from experience or was that kind of like your perceived projection?
Perceived, 100%.
Gotcha.
Definitely. Like there was no prior experience.
Gotcha.
It was just, that was what was in my head.
You've heard one story, you're like, oh shit, don't want to do that. High risk. Okay.
Exactly. Yep. And so it, like I said, it really was I don't have a choice. I've got to do this. Because if I don't, what do I do? Like there was no plan B. And so, at the time, just for their services, I think, it was like half a wedding cost was what they were charging me for their services to set up the ads and the landing page and everything like that. And then they wanted me to be able to spend, I think at the time was like $50 per day on ads, which for me was crazy. Like
so
I was just like
$1,500 a month.
Yeah. And I was like, no, like that's insane. I can't spend that on ads. And like up until that point, I'd probably spent like $10 boosting a post or something like that.
Your mum, your grandma,
exactly.
liking it.
And I was like, nah, like you said, you were going to commit to this, just do it. And so it probably took us about 2 or 3 weeks to get the ads up. I definitely wasn't happy with the copy that they had created. I didn't think it was going to work, but at the same time, I was like, let's just go for it. And then we launched those, and I was like, if I can make, you know, 2 deposits from weddings, if I get 2 weddings booked in, that'll pay for the ads and for the ads agency. And then I'm just going to keep doing that because then there's still money on the back end from actually shooting the wedding. So like maybe for a wedding, I'm paying, you know, 25% of the cost or the profit of the wedding I was going to pay to these guys in ads. But I was like, that's okay because it's better doing that than having no work. And I'd already thought about it at that stage where I'm in the fashion world too, where you have an agent, you pay 20% to them and they book you jobs. I was like, why isn't there a wedding agent where I can pay them 20% and they get me wedding bookings? So I'd actually already approached people with that and just couldn't find anyone to do it. And so I was more than happy to do that. And then, yeah, it was the first month we booked like 41 grand's worth of weddings. And I was like,
$41,000 of how much ad spend?
It would have been probably about 1,500. So all up, like it was about 3,500 using their services as well as the ads. But I was like, cool.
So let's say you put $3,500 into the ATM.
Yeah.
The ads ATM, and you pulled out $41,000.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell me about that moment, because I'm sure at that point where previously you were like, all agencies suck, this won't work, I've never seen it work.
Yep.
And all of a sudden you've got now $41,000 worth of bookings. Tell me about that light bulb moment and what it meant for then your trajectory.
It was how much money can I put into ads? I remember like contacting them and I was like, can we double the ad spend? And they're like, look, we need to create more ad content and everything like that. So we didn't actually end up doubling it. And I was like, they're like, look, it's not worth it. With the amount of people you're reaching and everything like that, there's no point, which I felt good that they were almost protecting me from that because I would have just dumped money in. At that stage, I was like, I'm going to make 41 grand every single month. If I double that, that's 80, you know, like, and that was just in my head, that's what was going to happen. So yeah, I was all in by that stage. And yeah, it just kind of from that month, it just kept happening. I think it was like maybe 30, it kind of was between 25 and 35,000 in bookings, honestly since. And I have been super lazy with creating new, you know, content and everything like that. My lead cost has gone up, but it's still regular that much every single month.
But you've run the same creative now for...
It's been like a year and a half.
So most agencies would say refresh it every 3 to maybe 6 months.
Yeah, and they were on me. They were on me for sure. They're like, dude, what are you doing? I was like, it's fine. Like, I don't care. Like, because the return was there.
Well, that's the thing. It's working. It's not broken.
Yep.
It's still working.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think as long as it's producing a profit, I think I want to touch on something because a lot of people, when they're going into something new, particularly with money and investment of ad spend, agency, etc., a lot of people have this projection in their mind, well, I want to see at least a 10 times return. They go to the best case kind of like minimum return. Whereas I like what you did because your mindset was, I need to make this work as long as I cover my bases. I'm good because I'm generating income.
Yep.
No one wants to work for free.
Yep.
I get that. But there is the value in terms of having bookings there. You're keeping your cash flow running.
Yeah.
And then obviously you got a much better result as well. Okay, so we've solved problem 1, which was not enough interest or leads, not enough bookings. Well, now we're getting a surplus number of bookings coming through.
Yep.
What was the next problem that you had to solve in kind of like this process? Because no doubt that would have been a blessing, but also a bit of a curse, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's like up until that point, every wedding I got back when I was busy was like you almost didn't want to book it because you knew that was another video you had to edit. That was another set of photos you had to edit. So it's like you almost subconsciously were, just stifling your growth because you couldn't take on more work. And I remember at the time, like for the earlier like 5 years, I was working with Joel and I was pretty much teaching him. Like he kind of came in from us, was third shooting with us, never had a business, and we kind of helped him grow his business. And he actually hired a video editor before us. And it was after I gave him the advice, why don't you have a video editor for? But I just hadn't taken it myself. And so then he's doing it and he's like, what are you doing? Get a video editor. And so, yeah, I was chatting to Joel and I was just like, okay, cool. I've just got to do this. And from that point, kind of went down that route. He actually helped me train up this editor because he'd done it before and he knew what he was doing. And so, yeah, we kind of went through and trained up this editor. And then all of a sudden, you know, for videos, they were doing a ceremony and a speeches edit, and I would just have to do the highlight. And then it would get to the point where like now they can do the culling, now they can do the highlight. And all of a sudden, that roadblock of I could only ever do 30 to 35 weddings, all of a sudden that was gone. Because I know like now they can probably do 40 a year is comfy. I don't want them to be rushing. I want really quality work. And so I'd prefer to give them, you know, about a week and a half to get through a full wedding, which realistically I could probably do in 3 days, but I just wanted them to have the time.
Two things that come from that, because I'm sure people listening to this will be going, okay, well, number one, you're letting go of your art.
Yep.
Because creators are artists, even though they have a unique style and how they shoot's probably like continuous over time. It is an art form in terms of capturing the day and editing and putting their sort of, you know, special touches. Number one, how did you navigate that sense of branding?
Yep.
Number two, hiring staff eats into profit.
Yes.
How did you navigate that?
Well, I guess having the surplus from the ads and the bookings, I still had to, you know, I still have to pay for a full computer setup for these guys. And so like there was still, you know, $5,000 in expenses to set up like the computer setup. You're getting hard drives, you're getting, you know, everything you need. But then it was, as far as the art side of things, I was always editing a wedding myself and then also giving them the wedding and being like, cool, I want to see what you put together with this footage. I'd finish up at a wedding and I'd be straight on my phone and I'd be making notes. Okay, this happened, this happened, this happened. This is really important. Dad did this. And I'd just make voice notes that I'd send to the editor, you know, the next day. So then they can kind of get an idea of what that wedding was like. And then, sorry, go.
No, I would say that's so important because our wedding, I got married 2 years ago. Amazing photographers.
Yep.
Amazing videographer there on the day. The editors, it was a team, it wasn't them.
Yep.
They missed so much of what was special on the first edit run.
Yep.
That we had to go through and like almost minute by minute, hey, what about this and what about that?
Yep.
I think that tip right there, like from a user point of view, had our team who was in charge of that, had that sort of like in-house SOP.
Yeah, for sure.
To kind of like communicate that across to the editors. That would have been a game changer for us because in the end we got a product that we were pretty happy with.
Yep.
But I feel like there's so much gold in the process of how you have done this to maintain a certain level of quality.
Yeah, for sure. And it's because like you can't blame the editor because they're just looking for pretty shots.
Totally.
They're like, this looks pretty. I've got no idea what the day was like. So I'm just going to choose the prettiest shots and it's going to look beautiful.
Even to the point of the music choice for us. They had Lana Del Rey.
Yeah.
No offense. Do not like that music. It was so mopey and dreary and it didn't capture the essence.
Yep.
So I think that's really cool to know because I think it shows that it is possible the way that you've done this and no doubt put a lot of time and extra in and on top of the normal editing you would have done. It's like pay a lot more time up front to save time on the back end. I think it's really cool to kind of like communicate that to people who are listening because it gives them a process to understand, hey, I can still maintain a level of quality and control without sacrificing my unique touch.
Yeah. And even like as simple as photographers and videographers might get funny about this where like I'll have brides and grooms like, hey, can we send you a Pinterest board? Can we send you through videos that we like? I'm like, of course. Like why? My goal is to take the photos that you want and take the videos you want. Why would I not want to see what you love? You know? And so they'll like, we'll send out a questionnaire of like, what's important, you know, for your wedding film, you know, is this going to be high energy? Is it going to be about the party? Is it going to be all about the portraits? And we can kind of get an idea of what they like and then even get ideas from, they'll send us past videos of ours that they love, or they'll send even other brands of videos they love. We can kind of get a really good understanding of what they're looking for with the edit. And because you can edit a wedding 5 different ways. Like just, it can be super slow-mo, it can be super fast and, you know, punchy, but you kind of need to know what they're looking for to be able to deliver to. And so it's just, I think the more pre-production you can do before the wedding, the better it is and the more happy, because all we want is a couple to be super happy. We don't want revision requests, you know, like we want them to get it and be like, this is the best.
Totally.
And then it just wins for everyone.
Totally.
Yeah. So it's just the more effort you can put in ahead of time, the better for sure.
And so coming back to then, how did you navigate this kind of extra costs to scaling? Because your goal was to scale so you could work half-time while still tripling your income.
Yeah.
How did you navigate that? Because I think a lot of people listening to this might not really understand how affordable it is to do this in a way that actually produces a great output, but also helps you to scale.
Yeah. Well, like if you go, say, over to the States, there's like all these big, wedding websites where you can get your videos edited. And they're pretty much, say, about $1,000 a wedding is what you would get, but you wouldn't necessarily get the same editor every time. You just kind of get a random editor that'll, same thing, get your footage. They're probably not going to pay attention to any notes that you send them, and you're just going to pay $1,000 and going to be a pretty edit. Whereas like for this, all up, if you say you averaged out the cost of the full setup across say 2 years or something like that, all up, you're paying like $50 per week for that over the course of 2 years. And then each wedding might cost us $300 to get edited. And same thing, it's not completely finished. We're getting it and it's 80% done. And then I'm like, cool, I want to change this, color, not so much on that one. Oh, what about this speech? There was a better part that we like from this speech. So we're still kind of quality controlling, but it feels like for a wedding videos in particular, the biggest part of your time is actually looking through all the footage, creating the story. That's the hard part where you've just got to be so focused and you can't have any other, noise in your life at all. And that's the really hard part. And that's when it doesn't take too long, but just to get in that mindset to sit down and actually start, it's really hard. Especially with most people's mindsets these days where they've got like their attention span is this. Okay, cool. I'm going to sit in front of a computer for 4 hours and I'm not going to listen to podcasts or music or anything. I'm just going to look at this. It's tough. And so it's just a really good starting point for us, like 80% done. I'm like, this is the best because then I'm just looking at, okay, what sound effects can we add here? What kind of color can we do here? Can we add anything extra to it? Whereas usually by 80% when I was doing it myself, I'm like, it's done. Like I'm so over it by that stage that you're like, good enough. Whereas I'm getting it when it's good enough to add that extra bit on top of it.
So it almost sounds like you're improving the quality of the product overall and the experience for the client.
Hands down, like without a doubt. Like I get videos back from the editors. I'm like, I could never have done that shit.
I love this perspective because I'm a bit of a perfectionist in my work, always have been across my life in pretty much every single domain. And I think people who are by nature artists, they're creative, they like to have a high level of kind of control over the process. But I love this kind of like switch on perspective around outsourcing some of that process, at least 80% of it. So that you can actually free up your time and improve the overall quality of output that you're actually putting to the market.
Well, I talk to them. I'm like, Hollywood is a person who shoots a film, the one who directs it, the one who edits it, the one that does the music.
Brilliant.
It's like every other industry, this would never be one person. Like, why are we trying to be the people who film it? There's people that just do color. There's people that just do music, that just do, the filming. Like, why would you not hire the best people in every spot? And I don't see that is seen as a detriment in our industry, but that just doesn't make sense to me.
Well, it's interesting because that perspective almost takes you out of a traditional creative artist because your perspective there is, I don't have all the answers. But other people do, and they're probably better at doing those things than I am, so why don't I learn from them?
Yeah, for sure.
Tell me this as well. In terms of SOPs, systems in place, it all sounds very complicated. From like the outside looking at it, sounds complicated in terms of lots of little moving parts. Is that hard for another creator to actually create and input into their business? Or like, how would you take someone through that process in terms of developing those SOPs?
Loom is your best friend. It's like, man, the amount of times that I'll just do it myself. Like you just do that in the rest of your life. You're like, I'm not going to try and teach you. I'll just do it myself. And so now for each stage, I've just created little Loom videos of, I open up DaVinci and this is how I import the footage. And I just like do a Loom and I'm talking as I'm doing it. This is what I'm doing right now. Cool, done. SOP number 1, done. And even like with Loom, they've got, AI, they'll create an SOP for you with timestamps and all that kind of thing. Like it's so simple these days. And I'll just run through every single piece. The biggest part was probably with the video editing, but then also Hazel does all my photos. She does all my slideshows. She does all my admin. Like Hazel is a godsend. And it just like, I just had to every single little piece. And even if you think it's tiny, just record it and just talk to them and just be like, this is what I'm doing and this is what I need you to do every time. And then if it comes back and you haven't done this, I need you to refer to this because this is what I need you to do every time. And so it just makes it really clear, and it's not abstract what you want, your outsourced people to do. It's it just keeps really like everything really clear for both parties. And then also, if they don't understand, awesome. Let's like, what don't you understand? And let me record it again. And now do you understand it? And like we used to do it where I would just do an SOP and just give it to them and be like, I want you to do this with no prior knowledge whatsoever. And if they can do that from that SOP, you've won. And if they can't, then you need to refine it a little bit. So it definitely is just like testing, but you just get better and better at doing it and getting out of the mindset of, I'll just do it. Because you can do it in 2 minutes. It might take you 10 minutes to record, but then you're never doing that 2 minutes ever again. So yeah, that was definitely a big, mind shift like change as well.
What would you say the top 3 pivots you've made? It sounds like ads number 1.
Yep.
SOPs, outsourcing number 2.
Yep.
Is there anything else that you did that you found really helped you to step out of that kind of like I'm doing everything role to kind of like almost like I'm driving forward and growing an actual business?
They were definitely the main ones. There's still, obviously, there's parts of the business that I still struggle with and I need to improve in. But as far as like, it felt like as soon as the leads were coming in, obviously then that's when we spoke and I was like, in another world, I was like, you're getting, pretty much 30, 35 grand's worth of bookings every single month. I'd be like that's just a completely other world in the past. But then you get to that point and you're like, well, I'm booking one in every 7 or 8. What does that look like if it's one in every, 4 or 5 or 5 or 6? And so that's when we started talking, and it was like really kind of trying to dial down on those little 1%ers which add up over time. And just like, cool, well, I can definitely have a better follow-up. And I started hiring copywriters to redo my replies and like, all my templates for how I reply to brides. And so I had like 3 different people working on templates. So how can I make that 1% better across every stage? And then once we actually get them on a call, well, I suck at phone calls because I never asked for the sale, but like, how can I improve that?
Yeah.
And that was almost I couldn't be bothered putting time and effort into making more ads, which I knew I should be doing. But I was like, if I'm not doing that, but I'm improving this part, then that negates the fact that I need to change this part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really wise perspective because having been in coaching business world now for 20 years, a lot of people shoot for perfect when you don't need it to be perfect for it to work really freaking well.
Yeah.
Like even your ads case in point, they've been running for 1.5 years now. Traditionally, we would say, let's refresh those creatives. But do you know what? One of my best performing ads I ever had, I didn't touch it for 2 years.
Yeah.
And it brought in a shit ton of money.
Yeah.
Because it worked.
Yeah, for sure.
The thing I like on that is you can still have something that's not working as well as when you first launched, i.e. now your cost per lead or cost per close is double.
Yep.
But we can go and improve one other metric, which is your close rate or
exactly.
your follow-up rate or how you're nurturing those leads into, that final decision, and you can still get a better outcome.
For sure.
So I like that because I think if I look back from the beginning of your story, things weren't perfect.
Yep, for sure.
You took action. You got a really great result. You took action.
Yeah.
You kind of like kicked the problem can down the road, not getting caught up in the weeds of it needs to be perfect today.
Yeah, definitely.
With editing, with ads, with follow-up, clunky on sales. I mean, when we first met, I was like, talk me through your sales process. And you're like,
sales what?
Oh, like I sit on a Zoom and I smile and I'm, have a good rapport and a good chat. I'm like, you ask for the sale? Like, what's next? Like, where to? So again, it's like I make a joke of that, but there's always something we can do better. It just doesn't need to be perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
To actually work well.
Because then like if it's perfect, you just stop and focus on that and you don't go anywhere because you can always like it's diminishing returns trying to get to perfect where there's other things that you can kind of get way better returns. It's like another like Hormozy thing is like if it's not going to make, a 10% difference in your business, like why even bother doing it? Like there is a cost to changing things as well. And like starting to understand that and like, oh, this needs to change. Does it? Or are you just trying to be busy as well? So it's kind of it is a constant thing where you have to continually like check yourself and like, am I trying to improve things or is this just because I need something to do right now? So yeah, it's a tricky one that you just have to kind of keep refining over time.
Would you consider yourself a perfectionist?
I'm not, but I get frustrated that I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've definitely always been really good in my life. 90% I've been awesome. To get the other 10%, I've always struggled. I get to a lot, like a 90%, which in the course of my life has led me in really good directions. But I get really frustrated, even like building and stuff like that. I'm like, that's great. And then like there'll be the little 10% at the end that I stuff up, you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't think I am a perfectionist, which has helped me in my life. I think if I was more, when I speak to other people that are editing their photos and they're like, this one or this one, I'm like, dude, there's no difference. There's no, like the couple, they're not going to know. This is a beautiful photo, this one and this one. And they've just spent like an extra half an hour doing this. And so there is a little bit of letting go and knowing that like what you're doing is great. And I think people in the creative field, they aren't happy with what they're producing. It could always be better, which always makes your work better over time. But there also has to be a point where you're just like, what I do is great and appreciate what you do.
See, I think that's actually served you well, because I think a lot of people, myself included, waste a lot of time and energy trying to perfect that last 10%, 20%, whatever it might be.
Yep.
And I don't think that's about diminishing the quality of the output. I think, like you said, there's this level of, I want it to be as good as I can do, which you've said admittedly is only 90%, typically across time.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think not getting caught up in that final 10% details probably enabled you to outsource and recognize, hey, I'm not the best.
Yep.
I need help.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's probably served you really well, because again, you don't have success like you've had without getting help and realizing that a man is not a solo island. Like, he needs support, he needs coaching, he needs strategies, he needs help to actually get him to where he wants to go.
Yeah. And it's like not also falling into the pitfalls. I look at other brands that they charge double what I do. They are artists, but I know that they've got 10 weddings they need to edit, and they sit there every hour of every day editing videos. And I'm like, would I want that life? Like, okay, so I'll shoot double the amount of weddings that they shoot, so we make the same income, but then I'm not sitting there every day doing the editing. And so it's like, would I prefer to shoot 20 more weddings and have those days, or be sitting there Monday to Friday every single week doing that? And it's a super easy decision for me. Like, it's not even a question. And so I think that helps as well, like getting clear on, am I this artist, like I said, spending half an hour on this photo to finish it up? Or do I know what I produce? Like, dude, couples love what we give them. And like the couples that we work with are, they're tradies, they own small businesses. They're not, they're not models. They're just like down to earth people. And the photos and the videos that we give them are going to be the best photos and videos they ever have themselves, like their whole life. And so it's just like, even that is a really nice feeling to be able to give to people. And so then like when I deliver that and they're stoked, it just kind of lifts up, like what we're doing is good enough. And I mean, I don't want to be just good enough, but they love it. So it's just like working out where you sit in that spectrum, I think.
So tell me now, what's life like that you've created a really profitable business, not only from income, but a time-based point of view? What are you now doing with your free time that you've freed up as a result of this?
Well, just start another business and just have no free time.
And you got 5 kids and no free time.
Actually, like when, the last couple of years has been really nice. We've had our 5th kid. 3 of them are in school now. So like, it's just been a lot of time with the family. Finally not checking our bank account if we can afford that acai bowl, like just not having to worry about that. We know there's money there. Everything was good. It still is. We're just in the growth stage of like the studio at the moment. So it's just shifting mindsets again, where pre all this, my wife had a podcast. We're recording it for, every week she would record at home. We'd have brekkie with the 6 of us at the time, and then we'd kick the kids outside, like, cool, we need to set this up and everything. And, and like, it was because we didn't want to pay for a studio for her to record in. And so we did that for 2 years, and it's like, it was absolute hell. It sucked. And so it got to the point where we were doing well enough with the weddings, and I had enough free time. I was like, why don't we look at getting a space? And I was like, and I also knew that a space like this, like a podcast studio, would do really well in Byron, because I knew friends were going to the Gold Coast to record, and I knew there was something there. But it just gave me time to be able to build this essentially. So without that as the base, this also was never an opportunity. So it gave me a bigger chance to be able to continue to build. And then, even like hire more staff members for the weddings to make sure that's even running better and tighter. So because like obviously more time needs to go into this, but I need to make sure that the wedding side of thing is running really smoothly as well, because that essentially is what pays for our lifestyle and our life and growth. Yeah.
That's cool. And so what's the vision now? Like, where are you taking things? What do you want to do with this podcast? With the studio, obviously.
Well, it's like we wanted a space. I felt like I try to help friends. Like that's almost a trap too. I've had people in the past where like all I want to do is help people, and you want to help people that don't want help. And like the amount of times like I just pour everything into people like this, you got to do this. And like, here's a proof this works. And then they just don't take your advice and it crushes you. Like it sucks. It's like, because you just want to see your friends and your family do really well. And when they don't take advice that is so tangible and so real to you, it's just frustrating. And so like we kind of wanted to build out, I'm like still like a part of like Instagram groups with like videographers and stuff. And like just yesterday, they're like, oh, how's everyone going with backlog? And everyone's like, I'm dead, 10 deep. Like everyone's just like falling apart. And it's hard not to laugh because I've offered these guys before. I'm like, we can edit your videos for you if you want. Or like we can step you through the exact way of how we hired our staff. It's not a big cost when weddings are a big ticket item. People spend money on weddings. So, okay, you take profit from 1 or 2 weddings and set this whole thing up. And then for the rest of the year, cool, you got to put in, say, 3 months of hard work to train this person. But then you're going to be doing this for another 10 years. You're good. So I just wanted to kind of find more people that were ready to hear the advice that I had. And also just to share in the wedding industry, and actually like I feel like a lot of other industries, there's a lot of coaches that are like, I'm the best. Listen to everything I say. And so I've been trying like really hard to be like, I am 100% middle of the road wedding photo and video. I'm not the artist. I don't shoot luxury weddings. There's nothing special about what I am or what I do. And it's like more so the people that I've had around me that have helped me elevate to where I am. And I don't want to be a millionaire. I want to be able to have time with my 5 kids, and I want to be able to pursue other businesses because I really love business. And I want like the time and space, but still have the income to come in to support that. And I think there's, like you said in last week's episode, was people aren't shooting weddings or in the wedding industry to make a killing. They love the passion of it. And I think that's where everyone is. But if you can do that and do that well and create a lifestyle around it, that's kind of where I want to be able to help more people with. It's, I don't know, it just feels so simple to me after the help and the advice that I've got that's why like I want to bring you on. I want to bring Shani on. Like I want to have all these experts to come on to just make it like a no-brainer. Like you can do this. You just probably can't do it alone. Yeah. So that's the goal at the moment.
Hindsight is beautiful.
Yeah.
Hindsight is also kind of like very clear and simple.
Yeah.
Should have bought 1,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah, exactly.
20 years ago, 15 years ago. What do you think it takes for someone to go from I can't do this to I want to grow my business? What's the key shift there beyond having a baby?
I was going to say 5th kid.
Beyond obviously putting yourself into a corner. I mean, pain is a wonderful motivator. It's probably the best motivator. What do you think it takes for someone to really make that pivot shift in their mind? Because I know a lot of people, that feels like letting go of their baby, of their creation, etc. Like, what is the shift, knowing that not everybody wants to make that shift, but for those people who do want to make that shift and do want to grow their business?
I think that's a tough one because I know everyone that starts their business, you've got the most motivation. The first year, 2, 3, you've got all this motivation and you're going to conquer the world and you're going to be amazing and you're going to go to Europe and shoot European weddings all the time. And that motivation happens. But then after that 2 or 3 years, it's just kind of like you're just coasting, and that's when it actually is when you're just earning enough and you're like, they talk like being comfortable is death. It's like as soon as you get to that comfortable point, why would you change anything? And I can only speak from experience. Like it was pain. Like that's the only thing that changed it for me. I don't have a special story where all of a sudden I'm like this super intellect that just knew business. It was pain for me. And I really think within our industry, it'll be people, like I said, they're too deep in the backlog. They booked weddings and now they've got 15 weddings they need to edit. They're not going to get them done by Christmas. And all of a sudden they're going to be stressing because they're going to get hounded by brides and grooms because they want their videos before Christmas. And now 2026 and 2027 are going to be dead because they were just focused on this. And so for me, like the proof in that was like, I didn't change until I had to. I hope people are smart enough that they would beforehand. But then also I didn't really have someone to guide me like what I'm trying to be to other people. I definitely didn't have that. And I don't know if I would have taken the advice at the time. But if I had like almost that proof and someone to like hold your hand along the way, I think that would have helped a lot. And yeah, like I said, mainly with the proof of it, but also like that wasn't shady because there's so many people that want to help you and like you're like, you don't care. Like I'm just a number. I don't give like, that there's so many shady people in that industry that I think it's just having someone approachable. But then also what's worked for me in the past is having like, actually that was a game changer, having going into like the men's group. That I skipped over that before, but even that and having accountability to other people, this is what I said I'm going to do this week. And knowing that like your next call was coming up in a couple of days and you're like, I got to get this shit done, like that was really good for me in changing like my integrity, both to the group and to myself. And like, I started actually doing what I said I was going to do. And so that's like a big thing that I would love to create is people doing shit together and lifting each other up and holding each other accountable. Because I still know like, okay, I need to create the ads. 100% I do need to. That's something I can do. It would take me a day and it's done. I need to do branding. I need to raise prices, but I'm too scared to do it. So it's like, I need like that people around me so that we can all grow together as well.
Well, I think that's what I'm excited about with this cohort that we're launching because beyond the pain of having a fifth kid and the joy, beyond that element of like, I need to change, otherwise nothing's going to change, is having a simple, actionable plan that you're held accountable on, but is easy. Because when you've got all these ideas and all these possibilities and you don't know where to start and what comes next and you're kicking that can, it's kind of like sometimes it feels like a bowling ball, just left and right. And you don't really feel like you're getting that direction. I think having a finite 8-week sprint, 12-week sprint that you can set some tangible goals and have a process and a pathway to follow. Okay, phase 1, I do this. Did I do it? Yes, tick. Good. What was good? Okay, let's improve that. Next step. Within a supportive environment, I think it only improves. I say it drastically improves your chances of succeeding. And we all have shit days.
Yeah, for sure.
We all have shit days. And I think on those days to be able to lean into, be vulnerable, say, hey, I'm struggling with this, or you're looking at other people's wins, collectively we rise.
Yeah, for sure.
As a group.
Yeah. And even like not having a set thing that has to be done. Because there might be people, they're crushing branding, but I don't advertise or I don't do this. Like not even having a set thing over that amount of time. And a pet peeve of me is like you go to a coach and they're kind of like up here and everyone else is below here. And they're telling you to do all this stuff, but then you don't actually see if they're doing that. And it's all like kind of smoke and mirrors to see they're up on this pedestal and you're trying to get to them. Whereas I like the fact, like I said, I really want to work on branding. And so from January, we're going to get the branding person in. And also I'm going to take that leap where I am raising prices and I'm not coming back down. And this is where we're going to do. We're going to, double or triple our leads so that I'm comfortable with that. But that's going to be scary as hell for me, But I think the value in people seeing you do that over the next 8 weeks, there's value to be had, because it's one thing to tell people like, you're scared, just do it anyway. But like, if you're actually acting as like, and you're actually doing that at the same time, they can't make an excuse that like, well, I can't do that because like I'm doing it. And there's risk for me there, So I think it's going to be really nice to be able to have people all lift up each other together, hold each other accountable. You said you were going to do the ads last week. Why haven't you done them? You said you were going to record that sales call last week. Why didn't you? We want to see it. Everyone wants to see it. We want to see how crap you were, because you're only going to get better.
It's true.
And everyone, it's like the value in a community. There might be one person that just has this small little bit of knowledge, and one person needs it, but then they said it to that person, and it just spreads around everyone. It's not so much all in the, the experts. There's going to be little people that they don't even know the knowledge they've got. And then that just gets filtered down. Yeah. So I don't know. I've always been, the amount of like photography groups and coachings and everything I've been in the past, and the best ones I've ever been to have been communities where like sometimes I wouldn't even rock up to the coach talking. It'd be more so just being a part of the group and everyone like being there together. And that was the part I loved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, that's very exciting. I'm almost thinking what we should look at doing is templating a lot of this for them, but also maybe, I don't know, like imagine we just do plug and play, take this landing page, template it in.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Just make it like easy, because like otherwise, you can go to courses and then you look at it and you're like, too hard.
It's going to take me 5 hours. By the time I switch on my computer, 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So I think it is just making it as easy as possible for people. And then like the proof is there. As soon as it starts working, everyone's like, they're going to have the same feeling as me. Why didn't I do this 10 years ago? Because now I did this and it cost me like a wedding worth of profit to do this. And now I'm going to book, I don't know, I'm either going to outsource and I'm going to book 20 more because I don't have to worry about the editing, or my prices are going to go up, or I book one extra wedding to cover the cost. Like it's such a no-brainer, but it's just like finding the people who are ready to change.
Yeah. I think that's an interesting thing, because in the coaching I've done before, we always look at the opportunity cost or the cost of inaction.
Yep.
And the cost of that is not what does it cost me to invest my $1,500 a month or $1,000 a month plus whatever else. It's what am I missing out on? You closed $41,000 in month one.
Yeah.
If you go back over 12 months, over 5 years, now we don't know if you would always close that amount, but you can start to stack up and see that's the real loss.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, again, every person has different goals, but I think no matter what your goal is, even if you get one,
exactly,
you're on the pathway.
Yeah, for sure. And you've learned, and then you're going to have better sales calls. You're going to have better traction wherever you do it. And it's like, it's only going to make an exponential leap from now into the future.
100%.
So it's just one of those things. It's kind of, this is built out of a bit of frustration. Same thing, like telling friends, family and everything like that this is all they need to do. Because like I said, the logical brain, it's simple, but you just need that knowledge and you need that help to make it simple for you. And then once you start, you're like, no, like, come on. Yeah. Cause it's just like, it's a slippery slope, because then you just start seeing the positives everywhere.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, if I did this, then I can do this, and then I can probably charge more for this. And it's just like the world becomes exponential, when at the moment, everyone feels pretty scared. Like there's a lot of people in the industry now that are still looking for part-time jobs. Like there's so many people that constantly hit me up like, hey, any weddings you got? Like I'd love to be recommended as a florist. There's like, people are hurting. So it'd just be good to get whoever's actually ready to grow together.
Mate, I love your heart. I love your vision, because ever since I met you at the beginning of this year, you have demonstrated a real, genuine desire to lift other people up through your own action and your own sharing of wins, but also through your challenging, your support. How can I help? What can I do? And obviously that's flowing out through your work, not only with your wedding photography, but here at Pod.
Yeah, for sure.
As well as through the upcoming cohort. Like, your nature is to give, and I love that you found a way to give to those that actually want to receive.
Exactly. That's the hard part.
That's the hard part. I went through my baptism in fire like all those years ago. I'm talking like 22 years ago when I first launched. And for so long, I wanted it more for people than they wanted it themselves. And I burnt out. Yeah,
it's a killer.
Because I'm like, why?
Exactly.
Your life could be so much different, so much better.
You
know? Let's finish on this. Fast forward, I should say rewind. rewind 2 years ago.
Yep.
Toga, previous to, do you say Toga or Steve?
Yeah, Toga.
Toga, previous to making this decision.
Yep.
Previous to Margot being on board. What piece of advice would you give him?
Oh, I was going to say trust yourself, but I don't think I could have trusted myself because like I had so many, you know, just back and forth in my own head. Take the leap. Like, it's like, I don't know, is it like trust? I don't want to be woo-woo, but like, is it trust the universe? It's just like putting trust and like just committing. I think committing actually is like just commit because I had so many things like half in, half out. And just look for leadership. As much as you think everyone thinks they're like the kind of the center of their story, the more that I get advice from other people that know better than me, it's the old thing, like you realize how much you don't know, but then it just elevates you. And then you find this trickle down effect that then you can kind of share that information with someone else as well. So even take ego out of it, look to other people and take advice if people are willing to give you advice. And I think, yeah, just commit to what you want to do. Yeah.
That first $4,500 that you committed, was that worth it?
Just a little bit. When it's like, you know, 100 times return on that, it's, yeah, I'd say it'd be worth that for sure.
Incredible. I'll call you a Mosey from now on. Mate, well done. We salute you. It's not easy to succeed in business.
Yeah.
But it is simple with the right strategy, with the right mindset. And I salute you because you are paving the way for a lot of people. I'm sure a lot of people watching this today will go away inspired.
Yep.
And will have a renewed sense of what's possible for them. So, mate, salute you. Well done. Anything else you want to say before we finish off?
No, mate, really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Yeah, stay tuned for more talks with experts. And finding how much I don't know about branding and everything like that. But yeah, I just want to bring as many people who are actual experts in their field that are not within the wedding industry, because I feel like there's enough experts in the wedding industry. I want to bring people that have expertise outside of that.
Fresh eyes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like, you know, it's a pretty small industry. If people know, you know, are bigger in that space and they can kind of bring their information towards our wedding industry, then the people who want to succeed will succeed. So, yeah, I'm just looking forward to that, man. It's going to be fun.
Love it.
Awesome. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, man.
Thanks for tuning in to the Wedco podcast. If you love this episode, don't forget to subscribe, follow, and share it with your friends. We'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave a review or connect with us on social media. New episodes drop every week, so be sure to join us next time for more wedding inspiration, tips, and stories. Until then, happy planning, and we'll see you soon.